slow up. No, I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up.
Welcome back, friends. I'm Rogue, and today we will be taking a look at the champion from levels 1 to 20. My intention with these beginner class guides is to not only showcase a wonderful class of Lord of the Rings Online, but to see how the class functions from level 1, and to give new or returning players a closer look into the classes of Lotro. Today, we'll be checking out the champion. The champion is described as the consummate warrior, a hero who cares not for his own well-being, but relies on his strength and prowess to slay his foes before they can bring destruction to Middle-earth. Armed with melee weapons and a kill-or-be-killed attitude, the champion is a fantastic class for players looking to take on the role of a blade-wielding damage dealer. But before we jump into the class, we need a hero. This is a flavor choice. All races are capable and viable of selecting the champion, so play what you love. While you decide what to play, let me tell you a little bit about mine.
Okay, what's our backstory?
We're brothers from New Hampshire. We're venture capitalists.
I'm sick of that. Let's be from Vermont, and let's have an emerging maple syrup conglomerate.
Wait, that's stupid. We don't know anything about maple syrup.
I happen to know everything there is to know about maple syrup. I love maple syrup. I love maple syrup on pancakes. I love it on pizza. I like to take maple syrup and put a little bit in my hair when I've had a rough week. What do you think holds it up, Slick?
It's the first quarter of the big game. You want to toss up a Hail Mary. I'd like to be pimps from Oakland or cowboys from Arizona, but it's not Halloween. Grow up, Peter Pan, Count Chocula.
Now that we have a hero, let's talk about what the champion receives at first level. Real quick, let's talk about Fervor. This is a build-up meter located above your auto-attack icon. The slots for Fervor fill as you combat enemies, allowing you to perform special moves or stronger attacks. Swift Strike, a quick melee swipe that deals main hand damage to a single target at the cost of 3 power and adds 1 Fervor to the champion on a 3.2 second cooldown. Wild Attack, another solid melee attack that deals main hand damage to a single target and also provides 1 Fervor at the cost of 1 power on a 1.8 second cooldown. This will be your primary spammable at level 1. Blade Wall is a frontal area of effect attack in a 5 meter radius that deals damage to a maximum of 5 targets, costing 2 power and sits on a 4.2 second cooldown. And finally, Savage Strikes. This single target double attack performs 2 melee swings, dealing main hand damage for both attacks at the cost of 2 power and 2 fervor. This will be your starting finisher attack at low level. As with most heroes, there's not a perfect setup for the first level character, so for now just slash and stab your way through enemies to get your hero through the first few levels. At level 6, you receive Champion's Challenge, a 30 meter range taunt that forces the target to attack you for 5 seconds and reduces their damage by 30% at the cost of 9 power and rests on a 30-second cooldown. Also at 6th level, you are applicable to select your class specialization. I chose the yellow line due to its focus on AoE blade skills, overland potential, and deed grinding ability. For choosing the yellow line, I received 2 skills. Rend is an arcing slash that deals main hand damage in a 5 meter radius to a maximum of 5 targets, and deals initial damage as well as applying a damage over time bleed effect to the targets every 2 seconds for 20 seconds at the cost of 9 power and adding 2 fervor to the champion on a 4.2 second cooldown. And Blade Storm, a dual blade attack that deals both main and offhand damage to a maximum of 5 targets and increases the champion's attack speed by 20% for 20 seconds upon scoring a critical hit, at the cost of 15 power and 4 fervor on a 10-second cooldown. At this point in your journey, I recommend pursuing Slayer deeds to snag up that first virtue, and there are 2 that are really good starter virtues for the champion. Zeal, which adds to might, physical mastery, and crit rating, as well as minor bonuses to both physical and tactical mastery. This is good to add insult to injury for the champion damage dealing potential. And Loyalty, which increases vitality, armor value, and incoming healing, as well as a minor boost to maximum morale or hit points. This virtue will help your champion stay in the fight longer with extra HP and an increased armor value. Either is a fine choice to trim out your champion, but regardless of which you do choose, I recommend you take them both eventually, as both vitality and might are primary stats for the champion hero. Okay, I think we're ready for a rotation. For me, small group pulling was a blast with the champion class. Snag up a small cluster of enemies, rend to deal solid damage to 5 of them, and place a 20-second dot on them. Follow that with Blade Wall to dual slash a frontal cone in front of your champion, then Wild Attack to finish them off. This will kill almost everything you come across at low level. If it's not dead, Swift Strike and that'll stack up 4 Fervor, and you can finish anybody else off with Blade Storm. If targets are still standing, simply just rend or blade wall again to clear out the stragglers. It is worth mentioning to know your limits. At this point in your journey, you have no healing abilities or skills, so I would keep my pulse small to start with and increase the size of the groups as you become more comfortable with the AoE rotation. Also, it's always prudent to have some healing potions on hand in case you feel you might be overwhelmed by any given encounter. Practice makes perfect, friends, so keep at it and you'll be hewing down swaths of enemies in no time. As a champion, you are able to wear heavy armor and dual-wield melee weapons, so if I had to recommend a crafting vocation, I would lean towards armorer or weaponsmith. Either is a fine choice for the champion and will help trim out any equipment as you level. Okay, let's grab some levels, shall we? The champion is very skill slim at low level and doesn't receive another skill until level 14, which is Bracing Attack, which is a dual weapon attack that deals both main and offhand damage to a single target and heals the champion for 25% of their maximum morale or hit points, with a cost of 42 power and 3 fervor, and rests on a 30-second cooldown. This is a nice oh shit attack to pair with a potion if you find yourself in too deep, but I wouldn't really rely on it to keep you in the fight due to that lengthy cooldown, but hey, a heal is a heal in my book. At 16th level, you gain Let Fly, a ranged attack that requires a bow or crossbow to use and deals solid ranged damage at a cost of 28 power and sits on a 9-second cooldown. Although it's nice to have a bow for pulling, this skill really didn't see a lot of use as I leveled. Now it is worth mentioning that the champion can use two-handed weapons, and as far as I could tell at lower level, this choice really didn't affect my combat prowess. I just preferred to dual wield, though I can assume that this choice does play a role depending on what trait line you have selected at later levels. At level 20, your Savage Strikes skill upgrades to Feral Strikes, a 3-attack combo that deals main hand damage twice to the target and 1 offhand damaging attack, and has a chance to remove Corruption from the target at a cost of 40 power and 2 fervor, and sits on a 4.2 second cooldown. Also at level 20, you gain Blood Rage, which removes dazes, stuns, being knocked prone, but not dread or full immobilization, but does also remove the disarm effect. And Clobber, a single target melee attack that causes main hand damage and interrupts inductions at a cost of 30 power and 1 fervor on a 10-second cooldown. The champion is a blade-wielding nightmare on the battlefield, dealing massive damage to groups of enemies with ease. If you love melee DPS that lives on the edge and doesn't rely on self-heals to win the day, and enjoy a more kill or be killed approach to combat, then the champion may be for you. As always, friends, thank you so much for your time. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to drop a like to slash the algorithm and consider subscribing to Dual Strike the Shadow. And have a wonderful day. Goodbye.